Well, here we are once again. I'm going to be making on this particular segment a slab of farmland pork spare ribs. I have the ribs with the tips cut off, and basically they have been demembraned. There's a little bit piece on there, but basically I pulled the membrane off the underside, which is optional. If you don't want to pull it off, that's fine. If you do, I suggest doing it when the ribs are very cold or halfway frozen. And basically I'm going to be making my own rub, putting it on the meat as seasonings instead of in a container, because I don't have any pre-made. So basically I'm going to be using the ingredients I would use in a pre-mixed rub that I usually do. So basically, since I am making this and it's not going to sit overnight, I will be using some seasoned meat tenderizer first. And the intention of doing this and the result we want to produce is a darkly colored rib. That's basically what we want. That way you know your rubs seasonings are on there. And then also we have a roasted granulated garlic. And this I'm just going to sprinkle some generous amounts on there. And we're going to do this on both sides. I will just show you on the meaty side, and then when we come back we'll just be putting those in a container to let them marinate for about no more than 6 hours. It's about noon where I'm at, so I want to have these smoking by 6 p.m. or around there. So alright, and then we'll also go with some brown crushed mustard seed. If you notice, I'm using my lighter ingredients first. This has a little color to it, but with the dark brown mustard seed in there, but not enough to where you can't tell the coloring is going on. Now we're going to start incorporating our dark seasonings. I'm going to use a little bit of hickory smoked salt. And this is dark, as you can see. You don't have to use very much of this because it does contain salt. If you notice, I'm not going to be using seasoning salt on here. I have a different type of salt that I'll show you. Kind of a new thing for salt lovers that don't want all the sodium. Black pepper. The good thing about lining your counter with wax paper is you can kind of pour the seasonings that are on there back onto the meat. And then also we have a sweet smoked Spanish paprika. Now you can use regular if that's what you have. This is good, really good for coloring. As you can see, we're getting to our darker seasonings. Our meat is transforming to a different color, and that's what we want. We don't want it to look like ribs that you just buy out of the store or get fresh off of the pig. Okay. Alright. Now, we have brown sugar here. And this here is really soft. If you have really hard brown sugar that's dried out, I suggest putting it in a food processor, and it will come back and it'll be crushed. It'll look like dust, but it really goes on meat like this very well. It's also good for smoothies. So when you get that hard brown sugar, don't throw it out. You can still use it. To soften it up, you put it in the microwave with another container that contains water, and it will soften up. Put it in there for about 30 seconds at a time because it will burn also. As you can see, we got that generously on there. And I haven't touched this meat, so that's why I can use these different seasonings like this, because I haven't touched the meat itself, other than showing you at the beginning. But I have sanitizer here, so we don't worry about cross-contamination. Okay, now what we have here at this point, I'm going to rub this in. Better turn on my hot water there. And you're just going to want to, just as I say, rub it in. You just go like that. A nice little rubbing motion going on. Like I say, the purpose of this and intent is to get it decolorized, basically. And make it a different color. And you can use fingers, thumbs, whatever suits you. And like I say, you're going to do this on both sides of the meat. Okay, now I'm going to wash my hands real quick. Right, get the hands all washed up and dried off. Now, what I'm going to do now is use my Denny meat tenderizer. And there's bones in there, so you're going to want to use one of these or a meat mallet. I want to get that all the way through there. I don't want to touch that. Get something to, just anything to hold this. Don't want to touch that there. There we go. Okay. Really get those penetrated holes in there, because what I'm going to do next is really going to set off these flavors down into the meat. So you want these, your tenderizer, hopefully you have one like this with teeth that can penetrate the meat versus a mallet. If your mallet is all you have, it's fine to use it, but you may want to take a knife and get a lot of holes in there for this next step I'm about to show you. Okay, now, what we're going to do next here, and you can pick one of these up on Amazon for anywhere from probably $10 to $15. Now, this one was around $20, but it's a really good meat tenderizer. Use it for anything. Now, next, I have some raspberry walnut vinaigrette. Now, this is optional, or you can use Italian dressing, but I'm using this mainly for the sweetness of the raspberry. The walnut will offer a little bit of flavor in there, and then as in a vinaigrette with the oil, and that will help with tenderizing. As you can see, that's why we put holes in this, not holes but penetration points with our Denny meat tenderizer, so that way this will seep down in there, and as it does that, it's going to take some of these flavorings of seasonings that we have on top of our meat. Just to speed this up just a little bit. And as you can see, don't want to go too heavy on this, and I'm not going to do this on the underside. This is only going to be on the top, because you don't want your meat to have a vinegar taste, and it can if you use too much of this. So I'm only going to do this on one side, which is the meat side of the rib. And like I say, we're going to let this sit in the refrigerator for about 5 hours. I'll come back and start hooking them up on the smoker, and I'm going to show you my smoking pot that I have. I'm not doing these on a grill, but I have a smoker indoor pot that you could actually put on your stove, and I kid you not, without any exaggeration, that they will have just as much, if not more, smoke flavor than the ribs if you put them on a grill. Okay, so basically we have that side there, and I'm going to show you the difference. As you can see, the difference in the meat. See how much darker this is versus this. Of course, there's a true contrast. That's how you want your meat difference to look. So I'm going to go ahead and season these on the other side, and we'll come back. And again, you do not want to put any vinaigrette or Italian dressing on both sides of the meat. Use it on one or the other. I suggest the meat side so the seasonings can penetrate downward. See you back in a few. Okay. Well, I'm back again. I'm going to go ahead and video this other side while I'm seasoning it, just in case anybody wants to know how much is she putting on the other side or what have you. Just a little bit of our meat tenderizer, 59 cents. That's a steal. Okay. Then we'll go with our crushed mustard seeds, And these are brown and yellow mustard seeds. That's why it kind of looks like lemon pepper actually, and it smells very aromatic. Okay, now black pepper. And that's just a regular ground black pepper. I usually use a red and black pepper blend, but I don't have any more of that, so I'm just using ground black pepper. Okay, we'll go with our paprika. Paprika's trying to stick on me. It's very moist. This is a spice store pepper here, or I'm sorry, paprika, and it's very, very moist, so it tends to, doesn't have much of that anti-chalking or agent in it, so which is good. So you have to kind of give it a tap every now and then. Okay, we got our hickory smoked salt, which is that. Tones makes this one, but they make several different kinds, and these can get quite expensive actually in the gourmet spice store. You can get some that run up to $7, $8, $10 a bottle, or shaker rather. But they put in really good flavor. Notice I'm not using any liquid smoke. I'm using this instead. Liquid smoke I use sometimes, but I'm just not using it today. Okay, and our brown sugar. And this is about a half cup of brown sugar, by the way. I just kind of mashed it down and put it in this little container. It's actually a KFC side dish, literally. I keep all those little containers. They're good for measuring things out. And I'm going to use all the rest of this brown sugar. Okay, now I'll rub this in, and at this point, oops, I forgot our garlic powder. Gotta get our roasted garlic powder in there. Just gonna generously pour some of that on there. Be careful there, I don't want to get too much. There we go. Okay, now this side, I mentioned some salt that I had. And this is a salt, it's called Salt for Life. It's basically 70% less sodium. One of the Conagra chefs actually came up with this. It's very, lot less sodium in it. And it's, doesn't contain iodide, so if you are watching iodine in your diet, this is not the one you want to use, so because it doesn't have any in it. So basically we're putting the salt on there, and we can go generous amounts on there since it doesn't have as much sodium in it. Okay, now as far as our sauces, if you want sauce you can use sauce. I just have a basic cookies Western hickory blend. And then I'm also be using some Gates, and I'm not going to put any sauce directly on my meat. It's going to be served up at the time of consumption. So we'll go ahead, I'm going to rub this in, and we'll come back and I'll let this marinate, and we'll go on to our next side dish. Okay, now what we have here is the indoor smoker pot. Basically, as you can see, it's a large Dutch oven style pot with a dome. It almost looks like a grill dome lid. It goes up to 400 degrees. You do not have to have it at 400 degrees, by the way, to successfully smoke. This comes out. Got ventilation holes on this side, like so. Just like a regular grill. Or smoker, I should say. Okay, so then the lid comes off. And what we're doing is we're going to get this ready to put our wood chips in. And these are special wood chips. These are not the kind you buy at the hardware store. This is how this looks. These were the last chips. And I'm going to toss this foil. I'm going to use heavy duty foil this time. Basically that's the depth of the pot right there. It's about a good probably 4 inches deep. And I'm just going to put some foil in there. And I got this, actually I bought it off Fingerhood. And I ordered it, they shipped it, and I paid for it right away, so I didn't get overcharged for it because there was no interest or anything. So I think it was like $90. I haven't been able to find one since. So, but anyway, the smoker wood chips for this look like they come in these containers like this. They're very fine, almost like sawdust almost, but not, they have a little bit of a chip consistency, so they're not like a dust. And this is cherry flavor wood chips, and then this is hickory. I also have apple, maple, oak, pecan, and basically you just kind of use your own judgment. The more you use, the more they will smoke. And these are cherry, and that's probably about a tablespoon. And I'm going to also mix the hickory, since we have that brown sugar on there. I didn't want to go all cherry because that's going to offer a little sweetness, that brown sugar, to the ribs themselves. And the main thing is just to spread these around. And when you buy one of these, it doesn't tell you to do all this. It tells you to just pour them on the bottom. You want to have your stove eye at this time preheating, and you want to have it on about a medium high. You don't want it all the way bright red, but on about a medium high. So we'll go ahead and has these parts come with it. So you have the pot. This is a tray here. This is what is used as a drip pan. If you are cooking certain types of meats, you do have to add water to this. With ribs, you do not, because they will produce their own moisture and meat, or juice rather, not meat. But some meats you will use this for certain ones. It's in the book that comes with it. We never put water in there though. Let's see. So there's that part of it. And you also never want to put barbecue sauce or any type of a sauce in there, because it will burn. It's close to the eye, it'll burn. This here is good if you want to put some vegetables on here. You can. This is also good for us to actually put our meat on, which is what we're going to do. But you can put onions on here, or if you want to smoke any type of vegetables, kebabs can go on there. You can't get very many, or you'd have to cut your skewer, and you could put those on there. But this thing smokes the hell out of some meat. Don't get me wrong. It's not like oven ribs or anything like that. So we'll go ahead, and I got my eye getting nice and hot. We'll go ahead and get started. You do not need to spray this. It is a good non-stick surface. I've had this for about 4 years. Very non-stick surface, no scratches on it. You don't want to brush it with anything that will break the non-stick surface though. So see you back in a few minutes when we get those ribs on here. Okay, now basically what I'm going to do, since this is the longer portion here, I'm going to put that in there first. And I'll put this one in there second. Then I'm going to put our ends, or tips, in there rather. Alright, so much easier to have this on the counter versus just the countertop itself. So I'm going to just clean this little mess up. And we have our ribs there. Nice, and we're going to let these marinate for about 5 hours. Okay, we got our pot going, and there's all of our smoke. And that's how much smoke is going to be building back up in that baby. So we're going to put that one on there like so. And it really don't matter how you lay these on there either. They will smoke thoroughly. I even put my tips up there, like so, with that deep dome lid. And I'll allow that to, and then I'm going to pour the reserve there on top. And that's going to kind of go down in there and create a little more smoke. And you can hear. Okay, so we'll cover this back up, and it usually only takes maybe an hour at the most to smoke this meat with this intruder. Uh-oh, I'm scared. Okay, so basically there we go. And see, it's only at about 130. It says it's actually hotter than that down in there, but that's the temperature where this is at up here. Where that smoke is coming from is way down here, and it's tremendously hotter here than what I'm feeling up here. So it's kind of like an indirect heat is what that's doing. So we'll come back and check on it in about 30 minutes, and then we'll turn them, and then we'll let them go for another 30. Catch you back then. Okay, now here we are back with our ribs. As you can see, the most this got up to was close to 200. As I say, near the bottom, it's very, very hot. So go ahead and take this off. And we want our ribs to just pull apart there. Still got a little ways to go. These took a little bit longer to cook than I thought, because I usually cook baby backs, and these are spare ribs, which are a lot thicker. We're going to go ahead and take that off because I don't want the ribs to fall apart. As you can see there, they barely pull with the fork. I don't want it to be tough, but just barely pull with the fork like that. And then that one's done. So we'll go ahead, and our tips are going to take a little while to cook. These will be on there last. That's a thick piece with that gristle in there. It's got this whole building smelling, and they see that's pulling apart already. So say probably a total cooking time with spare ribs about 2.5 to 3 hours tops. And they can cook faster if you turn the heat up higher, but you have to be careful. You have to be in here a lot of that time because those wood chips can catch fire. So if you do use one of these pots, try to have an extinguisher nearby just in case, because they can catch fire. I've had that happen. Generally it'll smother out because of the lid, but like now I have the vent holes are open, so that's going to allow air, which can easily cause fire. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to let this cook about another 30 minutes, then we're going to take them off because we're going to have to warm these up in the oven anyway when we eat them for dinner. So therefore you don't want to cook them till they're tender enough to where you can just pull them apart, because otherwise they're going to tear up when you go to bite into them. Alright, now I'll go ahead and cut these up. Make sure I get between the bone. It looks like I'm missing the bone on this one. So right into the bone. The gristle in there. Cut through the gristle. And like I say, you don't want these too tender, so you don't want them tearing up on you. As you can see, we have that. It's a nice pink smoke in there, not over smoked. Very tender. The meat just pulls away, as you can see. Nice smoky flavor. Those will get dipped in barbecue sauce, and then we'll finish them off in the oven and let that sauce cook in. So we'll see you back then. Ta-da! Now this is the real finished product here. I put some sauce on some of the spare ribs. I got some tips going on right here. And I got some unsauced spare ribs. And then these big pieces of tips here. I'm going to use these. I'm going to freeze it. When I cook these again, I'll re-smoke them and use them as bean meat, or in some type of potted dish. So there we have it. My indoor smoky sweet spare ribs. And they are the bomb.